You know, deep diving crankbait is probably one of my very favorite ways to fish offshore, whether I'm searching or trying to get a big bite or just catching a lot of fish. A deep diving crankbait can catch a ton of them, but the thing about it is, when you're throwing these big Strike King XD baits, you need the right rod and reel and line setup. If you've got everything right, it's a lot easier on your arm, your shoulder. You can cast it farther and you can actually pull the bait down without as much stress on you. And so I'm gonna just tell you a little bit about kind of my setup and what I do. First of all, I use a Bass Pro Shops cranking stick. You can see it says cranking stick right there. The cranking stick it's got a bunch of different sizes and a bunch of different actions. It just depends on the bait, on exactly which rod I'm gonna throw. If this bait right here is a Strike King 6XD. If I'm gonna throw a 6XD, I would either throw a 7.6, which is typically what I would throw, probably a little bit longer than what I used to throw, but it's a fairly heavy action rod, and that 7.6, I can get that bait down there and make a really long cast. That's the key. But the bigger crankbaits, the ones that are so popular right now, this is a Strike King 8XD, there's also a 10XD, I throw it on a 7.10. It's critical to throw it on a bigger rod because you can, number one, you can make a really long cast. These crankbaits are not very effective if you can't make a long cast. So if you're not casting it very far, try to figure out how to get your setup where you can throw it farther. You want to really be able to cast this a long way. You get it way out there and it'll just get deeper every time. Now, as far as my line goes, I like Sunline Sniper. I like throwing fluorocarbon because I can get the bait deeper. The line's dense, it goes down through the water. It depends. Typically, I'm gonna throw 14 or 16 pound test. I could throw 20, I could go down to 12, but 14 to 16 is kind of my go-to. As far as my reel goes, this is a Johnny Morris Platinum Signature Series. Now, I'll throw that reel both in an 8.3 to 1 and a 6.8 to 1, but when I'm cranking big, deep crankbaits, I like a 6.8 to 1. I just have every one of these setups got a 6.8 to 1 on it. It just feels right to me. It doesn't feel too fast. I love the 8.3 to 1 for lots of different techniques, but for this one, I actually like throwing it on a 6.8 to 1. And that's pretty much my setup. If you've got your rod and reel right, you can do some amazing things with a deep diving crankbait. Oh God, look at that. That is so awesome. When you got them going in a school like that, I'm going to take a picture of this. So I'm not going to unhook them yet. I mean, that's a 5 and that's probably almost 4. We're going to get a picture of this. That's pretty unbelievable right there. Hey, you got to have strong hooks to do that because they're fighting against each other. I got a 5-pounder pulling one way and a 4-pounder pulling the other. My gosh, that's awesome. They were mad. Hey, when you can catch 2 on one cast, deep cranking, that's pretty awesome.